Okay, very good. Welcome everybody. I'm really happy that we have a lot of participants today, and I'm really happy because we have two wonderful guests. And I will introduce to you first the ladies. Eva Müller, I think she does not require any presentation. Wonderful writer, wonderful trainer, and most important of all, wonderful person. I've had the honor and the pleasure to know her for some years already, and it's always a pleasure to talk to her, and it's always a pleasure to see her writing. I don't know how many medals she has won at the Young Riders Championships in Germany and at the World Championships for Young Horses, but I think she's one of the most decorated riders in that field. And I think it's very difficult to find another rider that has competed so much with young horses and that has so much experience with young horses than Eva. So Eva, welcome and thank you very much for accepting this invitation.
Thank you. Thank you, Cesar.
And then we have Christoph Hess. Christoph doesn't need any introduction either. Everybody knows him. He has judged many, many national and international shows at the Grand Prix level, at the medium tour level, but most important of all, many, many young horses classes, national, international, and of course, he has judged world championships for many times. But besides that, he has been a commentator. Every time I go to Europe, I cannot understand everything that he says, but for sure, everything that he says is very good because everybody loves him in Germany when he does his commenting. So Christoph, thank you very much for joining us. He is also a very open person, a very wonderful person, and we're very happy to have you here.
Okay, yeah, thank you for the invitation.
Okay, so we're gonna have, for today, we're gonna have a PowerPoint presentation that I would like to, that we will follow, the three of us, for making the comments. But I will start with that a little bit later. I would like to ask first Eva if she can talk a little bit about her experience with judging and training young horses. How did it start? Who were your mentors? And why do you love so much the young horses training and riding and competing versus like the International Grand Prix and St. George classes?
Okay. I started my riding career, now it's 30 years ago already. And since that time, my passion is to start young horses. And after school, I started, because we have our German professional riders system. That's a whole training system, and that is very special to other countries. So we have a system that you really start as a professional rider, and I did that with Johan Hinnemann at that time. Johan Hinnemann he was national trainer of the Dutch team. He's a riding master, one of the few in Germany, and he's my mentor. And right from the start, he felt that I have a, let's say, special bond to young horses, because I grew up on a farm, and we also breeded horses. And since I was a young kid, I had to break in young horses. So I grew up with the feeling for young horses, for foals, for yearlings, for, right from the start. And this is something maybe that is very important, to have a feeling for young horses, to know how they react, how they feel. And this is something that you cannot learn by a few months of training, but this is a feeling that you have to learn. And this was the start. And since that, I in my riding career, I was riding in total maybe more than 1,000 horses. I was doing test riding in stallion tests, in mare tests, in auction riding. I sat on so many young horses, and that gave me the feeling for situations, how they react, how they think, that you always think a little bit ahead of them, that you know what's coming up, to give a young horse confidence and guidance, and yeah, the special riding that it needs to show the best in a young horse.
Eva, thank you very much. And now, Chris, every time we talk about with you, every time we talk about young horses, you get really excited and really happy about it. Why is it that you like it so much to judge the young horses classes and to comment on the young horses classes? And just talk to us a little bit about that.
Can I have one or two sentences before? Because I have no horsey background. Also my family is a little bit similar to you. My father was a lawyer, my mother was a psychologist, and I had no background. And therefore I started in the region of Hanover, where the Hanoverian horses are bred. And I was in a riding club in Germany. We have riding clubs. Eva said we have a professional education system for professional riders. And on the other side, we have riding clubs and kind of pony clubs. And I started there. And when you start there having no own horses, then it's important, to ride all horses you could get. And what kind of horses you get when you have no horses? You get young horses. And therefore, I started my own career with young horses as well. Not brilliant ones, not as good as Eva's horses have been, but it was. I started with these young horses, and I loved to train. And later on, I studied education, pedagogic, and kind of a psychologist. And therefore, I had always very much fun for the training and education process of horses and of riders. So, and then the situation starts. It's in the late 80s, very, very long time ago, more than 30 years ago. We created in Germany the system. The German word is Dressur-Pferdeprüfung. It's a special class for young horses. In the old days, we had only young horses classes for 3- and 4-year-old horses. And then later on, we had young horses classes 5 and 6 for dressage, show jumping, later on eventing, and now carriage driving as well. But I was one of the founder of the system of young dressage horses 5 and 6 years old. And when Eva is saying that she is now 30 years around in the circus, I have to say I'm a little bit longer, not very much longer, a little bit longer than she. And the very first young horses class we had in 1989 in Mannheim, which is not so far away from Frankfurt, in the middle of Germany. And there we had the Bundeschampionat, and there we had the very first young horses class 5 and 6. And one of the former 5-star dressage judges was the winner. It was Dr. Dietrich Plewer. He was the winner. And I was sitting there, was one of the judges. One was Dieter Schüle, the judge. I was another judge. And I never forget the very first horse in the ring did a good and a bad job at the same time. And what are judges doing when they don't know what kind of marks they give? And in these days, we had only given 1 mark for the total test. And then we had given a 6.5. It's from everything a little bit, but we couldn't decide properly. And then there was a microphone. And then I said, I think we have to explain the riders, the spectators, why 6.5, because some riders would say, why a 6.5? It's an international horse, very good level and a very good quality, but a lot of mistakes though. And then I took the microphone, and after this horse, we said, when we start with one horse with a microphone and explain the marks, then we have to do it with all horses. And this was the very first day in August or the beginning of September 1989, although more than 30 years ago. And this was the situation that I thought it's amazing judging young horses, because young horses are so special. Each young horse has every day another challenge. And Eva is one of the very, very best young horses riders. And I think you were winning more than 30 medals with young horses. And I think 15 times or so, at least, I was one of the judges and had given the comments when you did win gold, silver, and bronze medals. And this is for me the spirit, to see good riding, good young horses with excellent young riders or younger riders who had a feeling for the young horse. And this is for me so special, because the judges are sitting together, we are discussing everything, and this is for me amazing. That's the spirit of, I love it. I love it. I love it. And if I can give advice to my judges colleagues, I would say judge as much as possible young horses. And now I do it more than 30 years, and I love it still very much.
Okay, thank you very much. So as everybody can see, we have two very passionate people, one from the judge's point of view, and Eva from the rider and the trainer's point of view. And I think it's very difficult to find a better pair than the one that we have today for this conference.
No.
So now I would like to inform everybody we have 80 participants. And as of this point, I want to start sharing with you a PowerPoint presentation that we have prepared. And let's see if I can do it. Yes. So can you see it now, Eva?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
Okay, so this means everybody can see it. And as a reminder for everybody, if you have questions, you can send the questions through the chat, and then I'll be watching those questions. And, I will try to make the questions to our guests while we're doing this presentation. So the first thing we wanted to explain to everybody is that you cannot just go to the World Championships for young horses. The entries can only be made by the national federations. And of course, every federation has a procedure. So my first question to Eva would be, with this problem of the coronavirus, how is Germany doing the selection for the countries, for the horses that can participate in the World Breeding Championships?
So in general, we have selecting process that takes place in Warndorf. It's 2 days selecting, and the German Federation, they can send 7 horses each age group to the World Championships. But this year we have the Corona situation, and in Germany I have no clue until now how we do it. I know in the Netherlands they start the whole process by video tapes the riders can send to the judging committee, but until now we still don't know what's going on. So we keep our horses prepared. For sure, I have a nice number of horses that could participate in the World Championships, but the situation is in the moment not really clear how to do it and how we will go on this year. Let's hope the best.
Okay, thank you very much, Eva. As you can see in the screen, 5- and 6-year-old horses must get a minimum of 75, and the 7-year-old horses 70%. But I would like to ask Chris, what more or less are the scores of the horses winning in the 5, the 6, and the 7-year-old, so that everybody has a sense, an idea of the quality of the horses participating there?
I'm not quite sure that I did understand the question quite right. What is behind this question? What is your idea behind the question?
I think Cesar, you want to know if how high the mark is in general, in average, for the young horses that participate, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, also I would say the higher the better. But as we know, I think we have first to explain what are the criteria. And we have the gaits, which is important: trot, walk, canter. And I think to get good marks in the World Championships, you need horses which have a quality of an 8 at least in average in all 3 gaits. When you want to come with a horse which has maybe 2 good gaits and maybe, as an example, a good trot, a good canter, but a weak walk, this will be not very, very good for you, because then you don't get a good marks. And the second thing is what the riders have to have in mind. The quality is important. We will discuss it later. The elasticity of the horse, and very important, the rideability and the way of training. Both together is for me very, very important. So therefore, when you want to select horses, both is important. And if you want to select, it's better, from my point of view, to have a better trained horse with not the very, very best gaits. Is, from my point of view, better to get a good score at the end of the day than a horse which has extremely good gaits and paces, but is not very well trained. So training is, for me, very, very important when you select the horses for the World Championships.
Christoph, thank you very much. So for general information, the way the judges judge these World Breeding Championships and all the CDI young horses classes is very different from the way we judge a St. George or we judge a Grand Prix. So here we have, for the World Breeding Championships, for 5 and 6 year olds, we have a president and 3 members. And for the 7 year olds, we have a president and 4 members. Not all of them are sitting together. And at the end, there is a commentary. So it's very important that you take this into consideration, that there's a different way of judging compared to the normal St. George or Grand Prix test. How do you feel about that, Eva, of this way of judging?
Yeah, the judging, we as the riders, we try to ride as good as we can, and the judges give the guidelines. And I have to tell you, every time, every year of the World Championships, you try not to be the first or second, but you have to have it's better, you have to have the chance to see the first horses. And it's always different what the judges want to see. Every group of judges, sometimes it's more important for them to see a faultless test. Some judges, they want to see more powerful horses, and it differs from year to year. And you as the rider, you try to find the line how to present the horse. If you have the possibility to please the judges in the way they want to see it, then yeah, you have a better chance than not to.
Okay.
But it's really different. I did it so many times now. Some years you have a better chance if you have a totally faultless test. You know, no mistake, no little something. And some years it's different. The group of judges, they have a different taste. Let's say it this way.
Okay, Chris, what would you say about that, and how's been your experience in the World Breeding Championship?
I just wanted to ask Eva, when I'm part of the judges' grand jury, what is the feeling when I'm sitting there? What are you thinking about me and the judges who are together with me? The last 4 years, I was one of the judges in Ermelo. 2 years ago, I was in the judges group when you was winning the bronze medal. Please say something, what you think about my judging.
Oh, now I cannot say anything wrong, but
you can say anything you want.
We know each other now for so long, Christoph, and I know you're one of the most experienced judges, and you have seen so many national championships, so many world championships. You know how to look at a horse and to see the positive body language the horse is having, or You know, you can differ between big mistakes, minor mistakes, and you see the horse and the test, the whole test in total. You know, you can judge the horse without, yeah, you have a feeling for the horse, and I think this is, yeah, it's different. Some judges, it's every year. You go to the championships and you're watching the first test, and you know what the judges want to see. Sometimes it's a little bit different. You know, we it's not big things in different, but the little things.
Hmm. And if I can say that something, I think the spirit, and I love it when I know who is listening, and maybe someone will ask a question, a written question. I think the spirit of judging is that we are able to communicate. Other when when one judge is okay, when there are 5 judges judging a intermediate 1 or a Grand Prix, every judge give his marks or her marks. Here we are a team and we are discussing it in the team. That's very special. And then yeah, we have to find a team solution, and we discuss it. And we most of the time we come from the comment. We don't come from the mark, but we come from the comment and discuss when the test starts. How is the trot? How is the elasticity? How is the impulsion? How is the rhythm? How is the frequency, tempo? How is the balance? And we discuss it. And then at the end of the day, when we were discussing 4 judges, 2 at the long, 2 at the short side, then the mark is at the end of the day the result of our discussion. And my feeling is, and therefore I love it to do it so very much. And if other judges have the possibility, please do it, because you can learn a lot for your own judging or for the judging the other classes, because you get a feeling what Eva is saying for the small details, for the body language of the horse, for the way of going. You see the whole test. Often in other classes, we see only mark, 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 or movement, movement, movement. And this is for me the spirit, to see the whole test, to see the whole horse, and to give at the end of the day not 35, but just 5 marks. And therefore, I think that's very, very good for your own understanding of the going of a horse, and at the end of the day, for your own judging in proper national and international classes.
Thank you, Christoph. Here you can see in the screen that if there is a tie, the marks for submission and perspective will decide the win. And obviously submission is very important. Would you two like to comment on that? How do you see that? Do you sometimes see wonderful horses but with not very good submission, or the other way around? Very good submission but not the best paces.
Yeah, yeah.
How do you deal with that as a judge, Christoph, and then Eva as a rider?
I think if I did say it before, we have minor mistakes and we have big general mistakes. I think we will discuss it later. And
Yes.
when you see the submission, you have to ask, or when you have to give the mark for submission, you have to ask yourself, is this horse trained into the right direction? Is the horse trained to the scale of training? Rhythm, suppleness, contact, connection, impulsion, straightness, and collection. So, and when you have this picture in your head and in your heart, and I think judging is something you have to do with your head and with your heart. And when you think, yes, this horse is trained into the right direction, then you will give a good mark for submission, or the German word is Durchlässigkeit. And the second thing is a perspective. And this is for me the spirit of judging young horses classes, because you look which horse has the best perspective, the best prospect for the future. And this is the big difference to other classes. Other classes, you just look, is a horse good in this movement, this movement, and this movement, this movement, but you don't look so much to the perspective. But when you judge young horses, you look, is this a horse which is able for the small tour maybe later? Is this horse maybe later for the Grand Prix level? And this is for me the spirit. It is difficult to explain, but at the end of the day, when the more you judge young horses classes, the more you get a feeling for horses to see, is this horse, yeah, a future horse, or is this more or less an average horse?
Okay, thank you, Christoph. I want to mention here that this is very important for the breeders as well. So there are some slight changes on the prize giving ceremonies. And the first one that I found very interesting is that the horse owners are allowed to accompany the winning horses, and that also the stud book is allowed to have the flag in the prize giving ceremony. Because I think sometimes breeders and owners, you know, don't get all the attention that they should get, and I think this is important here for this kind of competitions, and especially for the World Breeding Championships. So now I think we can go to more, not, I wouldn't say serious, but more focused questions. So here we have the principles of judging young horses. So Eva, you have access to some of the best horses, and your husband, which was also a very famous young horse rider, has always had access to really amazing horses. When you go look for these prospects, what do you look for on the paces?
Okay, when you have the goal to compete at the World Championships of young horses nowadays, you have to have a horse that has no weakness in the gaits. So you have to have walk at least for 8.5, 9, the same for trot and canter. Because in total, when you want to win a medal, you have to have a 3-gait horse. So, and beside of that, for sure, the submission that we talked over before is something that we train. We have the goal to go to the World Championships, and we have the training time before, and this is the thing that you have to have, because especially for a young horse that has no experience in these big rings, in these big atmosphere, in the big stadiums, you have to have submission to have control over the horse, that you can ride the test in the way you judges want to see it. When you have no submission and you have a totally outstanding horse and you cannot show it in the right way, you have no chance. So you have, for me, for sure, the 3 gaits are very important, but for me, the rideability and the willingness of the horse to present itself is very, very important.
Eva, thank you very much. I totally agree. And there is a question from the public. Somebody's asking, how do you deal? I mean, usually you have like these stallions competing as a 5-year-old, and they have to go to these big competitions with a lot of people. How do you handle the pressure with these horses? Because as you were saying before, you want to show power, and at the same time you have to show relaxation. And with all the mares around, and when you're riding these big stallions, how do you handle this? And how is the process to train to be able to control these very powerful and amazing horses in competitions?
So this is what makes a combination more successful than the other. I think that's the experience of the rider to deal with all these things for a young horse. You don't know when you go to the World Championship if the horse has ever been outside his own stable. You know, our world here in Europe is very small, and we travel to small shows. Also, the selection place is very close. The horses, they don't have to stay overnight somewhere else, and then you go to the World Championships and the horses have to be stable somewhere else. They don't like it, they don't eat, they get stressed, they get tired, or they get over motivated, all these things. And you know, when you do it 30 years, you know how to handle things, how to make the horse more quiet, how to make it happy, how to make it, you know, having fun with all this situation, not working too much, not working too less, doing a day off or getting it out twice. All these little things at the end are very important for success or not success.
Okay, and Christoph, what do you think about the standard of training? What are you looking for in this point?
Yeah, I want to say two sentences. First of all, I underline what Eva is saying. You need a horse when you compete on the highest level with 3 good gaits, not 2 good gaits, but 3 good gaits. And she said 8.5 to 9, at least an 8 in front of the comma. That's important because a rider is able to develop the paces, especially the trot. And Eva is a star in developing the trot. And when you have a good walk and a good canter, then if Eva, as an example, but other riders as well, are able to produce a horse, get a longer moment of suspension, more cadence, more impulsion, a better expression. Although this is, for me, very, very important. That is one point which is important. And yeah, the rideability and the way of training, this is the second part. And this is, for me, very, very important. And you had a very good question when you said how it is when you ride, for instance, a big stallion. And Eva is a good example because Eva has a position in the saddle to ride very soft and very, very horse-friendly. And this is what we want to see from the judge's point of view. We want to see harmony, and we want to see smooth transitions. We want to see a very smooth contact between the rider's hands and the horse's mouth. And we want to see the horse properly in front of the driving aids of the rider, and a rider who is able to swing into the movement. It is no doubt a horse's class, but Eva is a good example to explain how you have to sit, how you have to swing into the movement, and how you have to use your aids to get good marks, because you have to bring the horse in an uphill position, in a good self-carriage, in a good balance, and good on both sides, left and right side. And yeah, when you have this feeling as a judge that the rider is in a harmony with the horse, and that the rider is more and more together with the horse, looks like one picture, like one not one animal, but yeah, really a super team. When you have this feeling, then the judges and all judges, and there is no difference between judges from different parts of the world when they are sitting together in 2 judges boxes and to give their marks. Yeah, that's my understanding. They give really good marks. And when I just can add one sentence, in the last years, I think the harmony is much, much better. I would say around 10 years ago, we had very much a way of low, round, and deep riding, and very special. Some said it's a Dutch way of riding. I wouldn't say it's just the Dutch way of riding. And another way, now I would say we have one red line, which is good for all horses. And this is what the young horses classes bring as a positive spirit into our sport. The way the judges judge the young horses classes should be the red line, as judges should judge all national and especially international classes. Therefore, the judges can learn a lot when they judge these young horses classes.
Okay, thank you, Chris. I'm going back a little bit to paces, because sometimes you see amazing horses but are being pushed too much, and then they become irregular in front, like very uneven in front. How low do you go with that when you see a horse that clearly has potential, but it's very uneven, and especially in the trot?
Yeah, first of all, the highest goal is rhythm, 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 regularity, regularity, regularity. So if a horse is maybe, as an example, too much pushed, and then the horse is uneven in the front or is uneven behind, not lame, but uneven or not balanced, yeah, then you have to give a low marks. And then the discussion starts. How low? No chance to get a fairly good mark, which would be a 7. The question is, it is sufficient, yes or not? Is it 5 or is it lower than a 5? In Germany, we only give total and half marks. In the international classes, we give marks 6, 1, 6, 2, 6, 4, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So therefore, you have to make the decision: is this horse trained in the right way? And irregularity is at the end of the day the result of a bad training, and therefore, if the horse is not lame, therefore very, very low mark. Very, very low mark, no doubt.
Okay. That's very important. I think to me, it was very important that you stress this out, because many times you see people overriding their horses in national classes and even in CDIs, and then they're not happy with our marks. But regularity, it's very, very important. So let's go back to the standard of training. And obviously there's got to be a difference between the 5-year-old, the 6-year-old, or the 7-year-old. So Eva, you've ridden all of the levels. So what do you think is the difference, and how do you prepare them, whether they're going for 5-year-old or for 6-year-old or for 7-year-old? What's your experience with that?
Yeah, you have your clear defined way of riding every specific age class. And for sure, the grade of collection is the more decisive one at the end. The 5 years old, they don't have so much collection in the test like the 6 or 7 years old. And that is a question of strength and question of power, and at the end of training. And yeah, that our system is working like this. And the fine line to present a horse for us riders, it's not easy nowadays, because everybody's watching and everybody's saying, oh, maybe this is a little bit too much power, too much forcing the young horse. Some say, oh, this is a boring test. Some say it's, you know, it's the taste of spectators is different. And for us as the rider, to present a young horse is a very fine line, and of too much or too less, you know what I mean? To show the quality of the horse, but not override it. To create some nice, powerful movements without pushing it too much. And this is also a question of experience, and that what Christoph said before, that the standard of riding at the last World Championships was so good in every age class, in the 5, 6, and 7 years old class. That is what I was also thinking. There was no picture of riders, it doesn't matter where they came from, that you say, ooh, this is something we don't want to see. But a few years ago, we saw that, you know, that the young 5 years old, they were running or forced in a way, or too round or too high. This is nowadays so much better. And also in the 7 years old class, that really is a lot for some young horses, with all the lessons and the collection. They were all presented in a nice way, because the system and the judging is also getting better. What I said before, we as a rider want to please the judges, and the judging became better. And that's why we see very, very many good tests nowadays in these World Championships.
Thank you, Eva. Christoph, we have here, there is an item here in the PowerPoint presentation where it says that the pole should be the highest point. And I think many times riders, judges, trainers are sacrificed on the media because, you know, there is a picture there where the pole is not exactly the highest point. But of course, you have to take into consideration the breed, the conformation, and like the overall picture of the horse. And many riders are criticized, and then the trainers are also criticized. Could you please comment about this issue and, you know, what is most important about the overall image of the horse?
Cesar, yeah, I like this question because this is a discussion the judges have quite often, and this is a discussion the judges have sometimes with the riders as well, or when someone gives comments, he has to explain it to the spectators as well. I think very important is that the judges, and this is the same situation for a trainer, a coach as well, he has always to see, or she has always to see the whole picture. And the height of the pole and the position of the pole is one part, it's an important part, but it's not the only part. I think when you watch the whole picture, you have to have the feeling, first of all, but you have to ask the question, is this a happy horse? Is this a horse which loves to do the job? And when you have the feeling, yes, happy, good mouth, ears in front, a swinging tail, swinging back, in rhythm, swinging the horse, then breathing. When you see all these things, the horse is not wet, then you have the feeling, okay, this is these are a lot of criteria for a happy horse. And a happy horse at the end of the day will be a healthy horse. And we want to do the very best of the horse. This is the first thing you have to have in mind when you watch a horse and rider combination. And then you look a little bit more specific. And I like to say very simple that the quality of the contact, the connection, and the height of the pole is very much part of this contact between, at the end of the day, hand and mouth of the horse, a bit between the hand of the rider and the bit. And the more the horse is engaged from behind, the more the horse is using the hind legs, carrying the weight. This is for me very, very important to see this and to have the feeling, okay, the energy is coming from behind. The back is the bridge between hind and front legs, and the bridge has to swing, has to have a good elasticity. And then the horse is swinging uphill in a good self-carriage. And then at the end of the day, the pole should be the highest point, but there are small differences. This is very much part of the exterior of the horse. Some horses have it easier to have the pole as the highest point, and stallions with a big neck, sometimes the pole is not the highest point because the neck is a little bit bigger. But at the end of the day, these kind of horses, a stallion, for instance, can be trained totally into the right direction, but the pole is maybe 3 or 4 centimeters too low. This is for me not so important. Important is the activity from behind, the way the horse swings over the back. And I just want to add that the horse is properly in front of the riders and that the horse is seeking the bit. Seeking the bit is for me a sentence or a word, 2 words, what I want to underline. When you have the feeling the horse is seeking the bit, then it is for me important that the pole is highest point, but that's not the most important part.
Yes, that's totally right, Christoph. And sometimes it's the conformation of the neck that doesn't allow to have the pole the highest point. When you have a stallion that has a very big muscle on top of the neck, sometimes the conformation is not, if you had the pole then the highest point, you would override it, you know, and then it wouldn't be in the nice contact to the rider's hand, and it has to be seen the overall picture of the horse, judged from the back, from the hind of the horse to the front. That's the right thing.
That's very clear, and I think that's very, very important. I now have a question from Valerie, who is attending. We have more than almost 90 people joined already. And she's asking, in the judging of the medium trot in the 5-year-old division, some riders ride more extended trot than medium trot. So her question is, how do the riders feel about that? They have to override and show a little more than medium and think about really extensions, and how do the judges react to that? So I would like to hear from Eva first, and then from Chris.
Okay.
Thank you.
That totally depends on the horse that you have. Some horses, I have once had a world champion that won the world champions at the 5 years old without having the nicest extended trot. You know, it was the rhythm of the normal working trot, and he kept the rhythm in the medium trot, and it's the rider's feeling, how much can I risk when I have a horse that wants to show off and has the ability to trot like a old Grand Prix horse in the 5 years old class. By nature, that's always the most important thing. You know, you cannot force the horse. If the horse 5 years old, there are so big differences in the horses when they're 5. Some have the ability to do it, and some don't. And you as a rider have to show it in the way the horse offers it to you, and don't override it. You know, and this is what makes the difference.
What do you think, Christoph?
I think that's a really, really exciting question. And I have several horses in mind. And this is really a question just for 5-year-old classes, because in the 5-year-old classes, we have medium walk, we have medium canter, and we have medium trot. So, but the question is, what are the riders doing when they have an excellent horse with super gaits, maybe quality for a 9, and when they ride these horses, they can get in the extended walk and in the extended canter and extended canter, trot and canter, always a 9. And the question is, what are the riders doing? Do they now ask for less, or do they ask just in the 5-year-old class for the maximum? So this is always a question. And I think, Cesar, you will be a judge this year in Pferden. And I cross my fingers that the World Championships will take place in Pferden. This is for me a true question when the judges are coming together. And I love it very much to have, I think it's on Wednesday, that the judges have a little bit of judging training and they discuss a little bit things like this. The question you should discuss this year is, what do we want to see? Do we want to see a medium trot? The German word is mittlerer Trab, medium. It's not extended trot. And the same in walk and the same in canter. And this is it's a true question. Do we want to see the maximum what a horse can do in the 5-year-old class, or do we want to see a little bit less? If I can give advice, I would say you have to see the whole picture. And what Eva was saying, we have horses with amazing gaits, and for these horses, it's easy when they are 5 years old to have a trot, a walk, and a canter as an example for extension. But important is that the rider is not over asking the horse. When you have the feeling the rider just gives a little bit the horse the freedom of going, and then you see these lovely horses coming from behind with a good freedom in the shoulder, then I think I would be happy. But if I have the feeling the rider asked for extended canter, or in this case, as you had asked, in extended trot for extended trot, then I would be much more critical.
Okay, thank you. I think Eva and Chris, both explanations were really, really good and very clear. As a matter of fact, our friend Janet Foy was writing, was saying on the chat, we should make an article about this because not everybody
Yeah.
understands this. The judges know it. Sometimes the audience, the public doesn't know it. And that's why sometimes, you know, there are some criticism from the public to the judges and to the writers. So I think you made a really very, very important point there. So then I would like to go to the lateral movements and, you know, how important is the lateral suppleness? And I would ask first, Eva, do you find that some horses from the beginning have it, or you have to train that properly? And how do you deal with that, especially to make them exactly supple, because you can achieve that, and we've seen it, exactly supple to both sides at such a young age, because, you know.
Yeah, but this is about our training system that we have. The training of young horses also belongs, the lateral work belongs to our education system. When they start getting 6 years old, we start with the shoulder in, with the little half passes, and this is also what makes the horse more strong and more supple to both sides. And yeah, you have to know that you have to ride the test of the 6-year-old in August, or maybe a little bit earlier in the year when you try to qualify. You have to show shoulder in, you have to show your little half pass. So you start to work from 5 to 6, you start that work.
Okay. So Christoph, how do you judge when you see that the horse is more lateral to one side than to the other? How much does impact in the overall mark? I know it's a very difficult question because it depends on the severity and the force and all that, but can you comment a little bit about that?
Yeah, okay. We want to have the horse on both sides with a good elasticity and especially straightness. This is for me very important, but we know this is not possible with horses. It's not possible for us. We are right-handed or left-handed more. So therefore, this is a challenge for young horses and for, at the end of the day, for all horses. I think we don't have a horse which has not smaller problems like this on the level. I think first of all, we have to understand that lateral movements are not typical movements which horses are doing in the fields. Like they do flying changes in the fields, they do pirouettes, piaffe, passage, all these things horses are doing, but you never see horses in leg yielding or in shoulder in, half passes, renvers, and travers, never ever. So therefore, from the rider's point of view, we have to be careful to train these horses. And what Eva is saying, this is very much a part of the training in the beginning, not in the very beginning, but in the beginning of young horses, that you start quite early with shoulder in. Why? To make the horse straight on both hands, to bring the forehand in front of the hind legs. And this is for me a very important part in the education and training of young horses. So, and in the young horses classes, I think it's very important that we realize that the lateral work is not a typical movement what horses had learned when they have been very, very young. Therefore, the crossing the legs, maintaining the balance, maintaining the uphill tendency, the self-carriage is so difficult for these young horses. Therefore, I think you have to be a little bit positive when you judge this. You don't have to think, oh, I want to see the level of a Grand Prix horse. No, especially the horses when they are 6 years old, then they start with lateral work. Be friendly with your marks. And I think being friendly, looking from the judge's point of view, is a very, very important thing. And I always say when I judges clinics, I always say, in general, you have to say, I see always the half full glass, not the half empty glass. But this is especially for young horses important. See it positive. This is for me very, very important. Yeah, for the understanding of judging young horses classes, especially the lateral movements.
That is wonderful, and that, Christoph, lead us to one thing that I believe it was very important from the FEI and from the IDOC and from the judges and trainers to get together to this that has been called fundamental mistakes and minor mistakes. So I have them here listed, the fundamental mistakes and the minor mistakes. So I think we've already talked how rhythm is so important. So Christoph made it very clear, crystal clear. A horse with a problem on the rhythm will not be successful in these competitions. Obviously, that applies to the canter and as well, and of course to the walk. So as Eva was saying, you need a horse with 3 clear, good gaits, with 3 clear rhythm in the 3 gaits. And but then there are also tension, and we talk about suppleness and relaxation, and obviously all of this is we would call fundamental mistakes. But there are some others that are minor mistakes, and this is like where Christoph would mention we have to see the glass not half full, but full, totally full. So, Christoph, would you like to comment about how do you deal with these minor mistakes?
Yeah.
And what's your impression when you see these little things that may happen in a competition?
I would say forget it. And this is for me a big difference between a proper dressage, a PSG, I1 Grand Prix or special. There you have to look, although friendly as well, but there you have to look to the small mistakes in the same way as to the general, to the bigger mistakes. And in this situation, I think we have to realize that fundamental mistakes are in all classes when we are judging important. If a horse on Grand Prix level has fundamental mistakes, or in the young horses classes, age of 5 years, really low marks and not a very good comment. But minor mistakes are not so important for the young horses classes, because if I said it in the beginning, for her it's always a very special weekend when she goes with her different horses to the international, or in Germany, national horse shows. Some horses are after one day totally lazy and exhausted. Other horses are totally tense and full of power. And to find the right bottom to prevent these horses. And then if we realize it, then we understand that these kind of horses will make minor mistakes when they are trained into the right direction. When they have no fundamental mistakes, then for me, it is not a big, it's not very bad if they have these small mistakes. And this is very important. And this is important to explain when you give comments to the spectators, to explain what's the difference between minor mistakes and fundamental mistakes. It's because some people think, okay, there was a mistake here and a mistake there and a mistake there, and why is this horse from this rider higher than the other horse from this rider? And often the problem is that maybe one rider who has quite a good result at the end had 1 or 2 or 3 smaller minor mistakes, but in general, horse has no fundamental mistakes. And this is important to make it clear. Minor mistakes are not so important as in other proper international or national classes. And you had, and I like your power presentation. You had so many nice examples here. No problem, nicht? Halt, not completely attentive or straight. Normally, all young horses are without having a wall at the side. It's so difficult for them to come in and to stay in the middle of the arena at X. Nicht? and or transitions not exactly at the markers, nicht? Slightly and crookedness, canter, wrong lead, but immediately corrected. Okay, this can happen. If you look from the trainer's point of view, then you say, yeah, this happens with young horses. I love it. I love your presentation. It's really a horse-friendly presentation.
Well, thank you, Christoph. And Eva, how do you feel as a rider about these minor mistakes? Are they really minor, or they can cost you a medal at the end?
For sure, you try to prevent all these minor mistakes or bigger mistakes. And at the end, when the going gets tough, for sure, it's important that you have no mistake. But it can happen, and I like the way Christoph said it before, that you have at the end of the day judging young horses or riding young horses is to see the overall picture, you know, and to decide, to have the experience to decide as a judge, is it now a mistake that can cost the medal, or is it a mistake that shouldn't have happened but still a good horse, you know, and it should become first, second, or third. And then sometimes it's hard to explain that to the audience, to the spectators, and to say, okay, look at this horse, and we have to have this perspective in mind. We're sitting here not as a Grand Prix judge and give for every lesson a mark, but we want to see the young horse and the perspective in the young horse, and we want to see for sure a correct test. But at the end of the day, we want to see the best horse in front, and also the best horse in the best presented way. But we have to decide, is it big or minor mistake? And for sure, we as the rider try to present the best horse in the best way, for sure. But yeah, it's a lot of experience from the judge's side to sit there and to say, this is number 1, 2, and 3. And also to explain that to the spectators. I have that last year in mind when Jovian and Secret, they fought for the gold or silver medal, and there were so many different ways of seeing it, who was the best horse. But yeah, to sit there and to decide in the moment, to say this is number 1 and 2, it's a big challenge.
Yeah, of course it's a big challenge. And I actually have one person asking Christoph, how did he feel watching Jovian last year? But I'm not going to go into those personal things. I know this will be very complicated for you to answer. But this leads us to another mark that, you know, leads to define the winner. And that is the general impression. So you can see here on the screen, you know, what the judges take into consideration for the general impression mark. Would you like to make some comment about it, Christoph?
Yeah, I think, as you know, and I just want to point out, we have to give 5 marks in total. We start the judges the mark for the trot, a mark for the walk, the mark for the canter, then the mark for the rideability of the horse, submission, and so on. We had discussed it, and then the general impression. And from my point of view, the general impression is a kind of a summary of everything. And therefore, when you're given after a good discussion with your judges, colleagues, with the other members of the ground jury, 4 marks and comments, then from my point of view, it's very easy to come to the general impression, because the general impression is at the end of the day a kind of an overall mark and an overall comment. And I have always 2 things in mind. First of all, how is the quality of the horse? Is this a true national or international horse with a proper prospect? This is one point you have to have in mind to make it very easy. And the other thing is this horse trained into the right direction? Is this a well-trained horse? Okay, without fundamental mistakes. And if there is 1 or 2 small mistakes, and I know what if I'm saying they don't want to make a mistake, but the mistakes happen. And if this if there is a small mistake, fine. And therefore, first of all, the prospect of the horse and the quality as a dressage horse, and the other thing is a way of riding, the training, and both things, from my point of view, plus minus 50, each 50%, both together makes the general impression. And yeah, and I often say, when I see a test, what is the mark which I would give for the total test? If you would give only 1 mark, not 5 marks, just 1 mark. And then this is plus minus the mark for the general impression. And yeah, okay.
Go ahead,
Maybe
go ahead.
add,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can just add one thing, what I wanted to say earlier as well. I think at the end of the day, it is a class for horses. But I sometimes say, when I give seminars or so, I explain that I think sometimes it's better to have a horse which is not a brilliant horse, but if the rider is brilliant and is able to present the horse in a brilliant way, this horse at the end of the day will get higher marks, especially for the general impression, than a horse which has a wonderful talent, but is not so very well presented. Although in doubt, if nations ask, I would say you need good riders who have a good body language, a very good position in the saddle, and are able to create and to produce a horse. This is for me very important. And just when you look to the general impression, it is the overall view, the horse and the rider and the harmony, mainly the horse, but at the end of the day, it's a whole picture.
Yes, and I would like to make a comment here. When it says, if you see the last bullet here, conformation, expression, appearance, charisma,
Yeah.
charm, some people may think, well, this is kind of subjective, but I don't think it is. I remember the first time ever that I went to Verden, and there was an FEI seminar for dressage judges from all over around the world. And I will not mention the name of the mare, but I will mention the name of the person that was sitting next to me. And this mare was winning the competition, and and Cara Whittam from Canada was sitting next to me. And I was really impressed with the mare, but when I turn and look at her, she was on tears. You know, this is how amazing this presentation, this test was. And I really think that, you know, for all of us that really love horses and care about horses, when you see those big, amazing presentations with all the qualities that we have underlined here during our presentation, that's when you go like, you know, this has to be the winner because you are so amazed about it. So I just want to make that comment. I don't know if Eva, do you want to make a comment about general impression?
For sure, I think dressage riding is like a little bit like dancing with your horse as a partner, and it's about the partnership between horse and rider, and the combination and the harmony, and the way you try to present your horse with the lightest aids. You know, that's the ideal. You know, you want to present the best horse in a very, as a rider, in a good position with light aids, light-footed, invisible aids. This is the ideal, what we all have, you know. And when the closer you come to this ideal, the more you feel it as a spectator, for sure. The more you have to fight with the horse because it's spooky or it's lacking confidence in the test, and you have to help it and move in the saddle. But if you can just sit still, you go in the ring, and you have sometimes, you know, you have this feeling. You're sitting on a horse and you know today is the day, and you can present the horse and you have a smile. It's, you know, you feel like smiling on the horse, and then it comes over. And this is what we all trying to work on, and to prepare the horse for a world championship like this, that we can present the horse in the best way we can with with the best style of riding. And if it happens, it's what you as a judge or the spectator can see.
Okay, really good. So I don't know if before we conclude, we had promised this was going to be 1 hour, and I really thank you for, you know, going over that. I don't know if before I go to some questions, you would like to make some final remarks before we go to questions, and I would start with Eva.
If I have questions,
No, if you have a final comment.
a final comment. Yeah, it's with the young horses. It's like for me, it's like a passion, and that's and it's to see the progress, and because I do it now 30 years, the progress in breeding, the progress in the quality of horses, but also what we mentioned before, the quality of presenting these horses in young horses classes is going up like this, and this makes me feel very happy, and we all should be relaxed about it. And sometimes we all so much criticized by many people for presenting young horses, but it's a passion, and it's nothing bad, and we should be really all happy about the positive tendency about it.
Okay, thank you very much, Eva. And Christoph, would you like to make a final comment before we go into questions?
Yeah, I just think what Eva is saying, this is exactly the same feeling what I have as well. First of all, it's my passion. And the second thing is what I did say, I think young horses classes are, from my point of view, and I said it years ago to Frank Kempermann, who is a chairman of the FEI Dressage Committee. I said to him, Frank, the young horses classes are the red line for the total, or for the whole international dressage sport. And in the young horses classes, we have to find the red line, and the judges have to give the red line, how riders have to ride, how riders have to present their horses. And I think the more we bring the young horses classes into the into our community, into our dressage community, into our dressage worldwide dressage family, the more positive our whole dressage sport will be. Because we have to understand, or we have to know, that we have a public. Sometimes the public is very critical against horse sport in general, and especially horse sport in competitions. And they often say, okay, they do too much with the horses. And the more we explain what we are doing with our young horses, and the better the young horses riding is, as if I did say it, that we had the last years when I was judging in Ermelo, and I did it for years in Pferden, and I did it before in Arnhem as well. And I think the level which we have now is really, really good. And I'm very, very satisfied how the level, especially in training and presenting young horses, had developed in the last years. And Eva is a good example how to present young horses. But to be honest, we have more than one Eva, which is good. But because therefore we have a really good level. And this is for me very, very satisfying when I watch for years, 25 years we have now international young horses classes, these young horses classes, and I'm very optimistic looking into the direction of the future.
Okay, Christoph, thank you very much, and Eva, also thank you very much. I think this was a very important presentation. I think we cover most of the topics. I know it's a little bit late in Europe right now, but now I'm going to try to open the microphone to see if we can have some final minutes for you to talk with the people and maybe somebody want to ask a question. I'm gonna turn the microphones on for everybody. I just ask everyone to try to be silent on their house or in their office or wherever they are, so that we can hear, and especially our guests, Christoph and Eva, can hear the questions, because you say everybody start talking at the same time. At a moment, we have more than 90 participants, so there is a lot of people here. So we have to be very careful as to how to interact with them, so that everybody can listen, okay? So I'm going to allow the microphones now. So if anybody has a question, please go ahead. Yes?
Yes, so Eva, I have a question for you. For young horses between 4 and 5, what is the best way for you to develop the muscles? Because we're really looking forward to have more power in the back, and always looking for the best tips.
Yes. What I would recommend for training with the young horses, it's a little bit like you know, our young horses come out at least 2 or 3 times a day. We ride them, then they go out on the paddock or in the walker. So movement, going out, just you know, doing exercises. Always riding not more than half an hour, 45 minutes a day, but the consistent moving out of the stable, that makes them building up their muscles.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to ask everybody to turn the microphones off. Only the person making the question, because otherwise we have too much noise. So I'm going to silence everybody again, because otherwise we have too much noise. Okay. So if somebody has a question, there is a button where you can raise your hand, and then I can give you the microphone. Okay? So does anybody have a question now? Or you can send it to the chat. Okay. So do you hear me now?
There was just a written question. Maybe we can read the question and then we can, but I can't see it again.
Okay, so let me do it. Eva, can you talk to see if we can hear you?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, very good. So yeah, so I'm gonna go to the written questions.
Yeah.
So, okay. Okay, we have thank yous. How do you explain that some Grand Prix horses have never competed in young horse classes?
Oh, there are different ways of careers of Grand Prix horses. So many of my horses that I've competed in, young horses, became Grand Prix horses. But some horse trainers, they maybe are not so much interested in competing in young horse classes because they have a different way of training. So they make a Grand Prix horse on their own, but they don't want to show the horse in the young age. So they're different careers, and because we have a number of stallions, breeding stallions or young horses for sale, we try to present them for sure for marketing reason, but also as part of our training. It's not a must to show young horse in young horse classes, but for us it's a part of building the horse up. So, but people maybe in other countries, they don't have many of these young horse classes, and so they don't show them.
Okay.
And maybe I can, if it's allowed to agree, and if I think you will, or I hope you will agree, that not all horses are talented for the young horses classes.
Also, that's also a topic. That's true.
Yeah. That sometimes we have horses, they have a brilliant talent for the Grand Prix level, but they never have been good in the young horses classes, or the other way around. We have sometimes brilliant horses in the young horses classes, but you never see these horses on Grand Prix level, although with different reasons. So therefore, I think that's very much the experience, the feeling of the rider to decide, is this horse ready for the young horses classes, and is the young horses class the right way to start into dressage horses career.
Okay, and I would also like to add that there are some horses that mature later. So those horses cannot be very successful at young horses classes, but may become later on, once they mature, amazing horses for the CDI classes and for the Grand Prix. And for the... Okay, so
absolutely.
With this, we're going to finish our formal conversation, but now I'm going to open the microphones and the videos for everybody. It comes a little bit like our after-hour party, so you can interact. You know, maybe there will be a lot of noise. This is the end of the presentation, of the formal presentation. And I would like to thank again Eva and Christoph for the wonderful comments. We've had wonderful words from everybody participating. Thank you very much. And this doesn't mean that you have to go. If you can stay with us, we would really appreciate, because a lot of people would like to talk to you and ask some questions, or just, you know, ask about some personal things. How are you dealing with this coronavirus in your country? So thank you very much. And then now the floor is open for everybody. And thanks for everybody that watched. We have up to 90 participants today from all over around the world. And it was great experience. And as usual, wonderful to talk to Chris and to Eva. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Eva, I think we both have to say thank you to our general.
Exactly.
Super
great
idea.
Cesar. Great idea.
Great idea. Thank you very much. Very well organized. Very good. The PowerPoint presentation, and we had so many spectators. And Eva, I had fun. Did you have fun as well?
For sure. It's boring at home. It's no shows.
So now you can open your wine or have a scotch. I don't know, whatever you want. Yeah. Christoph and Eva, and we have our after party, as we have called
it. Very good.
Okay.
Are you still in the quarantine, or are you
I am still at the quarantine, and I will be in quarantine for 2 weeks more.
2 weeks more. Oh, yeah. And you have someone who brings you the food and everything, and cleans your house, and is cleaning your washing machine and things like this.
Well, thanks God, we have a living-in maid, and so she stays with us, and she helps us a lot. And then we can call to the supermarket, and the supermarket brings everything to the house. That's also a blessing.
And quarantine means staying at home. You can go into the garden, and what else?
Yeah, just in the garden. Unfortunately, I live in a natural preserve forest, So I have a lot of possibilities to walk out in the middle of the forest. So it hasn't been that bad with that reason.
But you can't go to ride your horse.
No, that I cannot leave the premises.
Okay.
And the horses are away. Although I'm not riding anymore.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So does anybody have questions?
Macintosh and my browser for the Macintosh wouldn't support.
I think Faith had a question.
Please go ahead, Sheila.
Google Chrome,
Type it in.
which needed to be upgraded before I could use it. And of course, I'm not really very techy. I mean, I use it a lot, but I'm not really techy. But I managed to get in, so that's quite.
So who's talking about? Who's talking now?
Who's, I'm confused, Cesar.
Yeah, this is
So
very.
what you can do, you can mute everybody's microphone, and if you press and hold your space bar, it temporarily unmutes your microphone. If you have a question, that way we have one at a time.
Okay, so we're gonna give the microphone to Faith, and then I'm going to silence everybody. Okay.
Yeah.
So now, Faith.
Yeah, Faith, yes, from Ireland. I would just like to say thank you to Christoph and Eva and to yourself for a wonderful presentation. I really enjoyed it. And we send very special wishes to Christoph because he's a very old and dear friend. Thank you. And I wish you all a very happy and peaceful Easter. Thank you very much.
Same to you. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter. Thank you so much for your kind words, and I hope I will come to Ireland in October very much.
We look forward to it very much, Christoph. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And thank you, Faith, for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, so who else has a question? You can raise your hand. So I don't think we have.
Yeah.
I don't think we have more questions. So
can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me, Cesar? Yeah. Okay. So a question to Christoph. So Christoph, you know that I'm a big fan of you, and one thing is judging, other thing is commenting, and you have a talent to always put the things in a very nice way, even when the presentations are not so good. What it will be your advice for the new judge coming?
Yeah, I think first of all, you have, as I know you do it, you have to love horses, and especially young horses. And when you love them, then it is really easy to do it. And what I did say earlier, you have always to have in mind, I want to see the half full glass and not the half empty glass. It's always half full, and you have always to realize how difficult it is to present a young horse. And when you come with this feeling, then I think it's easy. And when you have in mind that you always have to start your comments with something positive, and then it's much easier. Start with positive sentences, and each horse and rider combination has something done in a positive way. And start with a positive way, and then maybe at the end you can say one or two sentences because explain why the rider and the horse gets not very high scores. But start positive, and then give the reason why it's not so good. But looking very positive, and I think you have to be yourself very, very relaxed, and yeah, make that you have positive things in your mind. That helps a lot to give good comments. And this is important because the person who gives the comments is important for the whole atmosphere. If you always give bad comments, then the whole atmosphere, all spectators are very, very unhappy. And you are, from my point of view, the person who gives the transformation from the judges, the explanation to the spectators to explain all these things so that they understand what's going on there. And if you do it in a positive, in a nice way, then you have a good atmosphere. And when you have a good atmosphere, it's easier for the riders to compete. And yeah, I think a person who gives comment is very important for the whole competition. It's a stay in this special place.
And also very important for the riders, because sometimes you know it was not good, and then you're waiting for that comment, and you know and it's always good to go out with the best feeling possible in this situation.
Thank you.
I have Caroline Luther asking, she would like to know if the presenters have a question for each other. Like, if Eva, would you have a question for Chris? Or Chris, would you have a question for Eva?
Christoph? If I have a question for Christoph?
Yes.
Oh, no, Christoph.
And the other way around, Christoph?
I have a question for you. You are first time judging this year the World Championships. In your bucket list, is this on a very high place, or when you got the invitation by the FIA, you said, okay, it's just a competition? Or did you say, wow, that's it, that is what I had a goal for a long time?
Okay, I have to be very honest. When I got that letter on the email, I was very, very surprised. Because as I mentioned before, the first time that I went to Furthen to watch this competition, I was just a beginner judge, a 2-star judge. I couldn't even take the exam, but I decided to go there, you know, as part of my experience and as part of my training. So for me to go there and to watch all the judges that were judging at that time was kind of going to the Olympics, you know? And
how long ago is that, Cesar? How long ago was the first time you attend the championships?
I think 8-9 years ago. So afterwards, I went some other times, and I went there also to get my young horses license from the FEI, where we had 2 very good examiners. And that year was a very tough and difficult competition. And I remember all of the judges that were taking the exam, we were a little bit worried, and we were nervous, because to me, this is really like the top of the horses. So I am very honored that I was invited this year. And to me, it's like a very, very big thing. It's like something that would have been on my bucket list. I mean, to me, it's as important as going to judge the Olympics, because here you're seeing the horses of the future. And it's such a huge responsibility, because you have to take into consideration that there is a lot of work behind what you're going to see there.
It is.
There is a lot of work from the breeders, from the trainers, from the riders. So it's just, to me, it has been amazing. And I've been very honored with this invitation, and I hope it happens, and I hope I can fly and do it. You know? So we'll see. So I'm really, really excited about it. That's for sure. It's not just another show. Definitely is a very important thing for me.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
I have a question.
Okay, Kimberly, go ahead.
Looking back, using, of course, 2020 hindsight, did you find it more helpful at periods in your career to ride more, diverse horses, all the way from Grand Prix all the way down, and a few young horses, so that you always had the highest levels as a target? Every day you felt the higher levels? Or did you find that you rode the young horses and brought them along more effectively when you mostly rode younger horses, so that you really, this is just normal for the 3-year-old. This is just normal. It's like very predictable when you ride that many young horses and fewer of the upper level horses during your day? Which did you find, just in your personal experience, what helped you bring the young horse along better? Lots of young horses, or just a few, but make sure you also ride the upper level horses?
For sure, it's the number of young horses that you ride. And for sure, it's the experience that you get over the years to find out what is enough work, what is too much work, what is too less work with a young horse. And it's because when you once made a major mistake in the training of a young horses never forget, you know, and this makes it so special to work with young horses, to get their confidence and to get the trust and the feedback of the horse, and to work with an older experienced horse on a Grand Prix level or Prix St. George level or wherever they are. It's totally different work. You have to keep them healthy, you have to keep them motivated. But to train a young horse and to decide every day, what do I do with the horse? Is how is the feeling today on the horse? Was it too much work yesterday? Was it too less work? Do I repeat things or do I go a step ahead? You know, this makes working with a young horse so much more fun and so much more challenging for me than to train a horse on an upper level.
Thank you.
Was this the question? I don't know if it was exactly the question you had.
Yes, that helps a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, good.
Okay, so I'm gonna give audio to Faith. Do you have a question? Do you have it now? You have to turn. Can you talk now, please? You still have your microphone off. Faith?
Hey, it's Carolyn. While Faith is figuring out her microphone, follow-up question. What are the examples of those mistakes you made with the young horses that you just referred to?
For example, one day you have to find solutions for things happening in the way of training young horse. You know, when, for example, let's talk about the lesson reinback. There's so many ways of training reinback, from the ground, from sitting on the horse with somebody on the ground or without somebody on the ground. And sometimes you do too much aid from the ground and then the horse gets scared. You know, these little things, you know, to find the correct way of the way of training that the horse understands what you want. And sometimes you know, you said, okay, this horse, I had a horse that didn't want to rein back. They're different kind of horses, and it didn't want to rein back. It didn't, because sometimes mares have bigger problems with that than stallions, because it's for the horse a question of being not the alpha. When they rein back, it's like, you know, it's psychological in the head of the horse. And I was training and got worse and worse. And then somebody said just an idea, do it this way, like have somebody do it without the rider, just work on it without the rider. And then, you know, to find the little decisive things in the way of training. These can be little minor mistakes in training a horse, you know, to do it in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Eva. We have so many wonderful friends in attending this conference. I see here that we have Marianne McPhail from Wellington. Thanks for joining us, Marianne. I don't know if you want to say something.
Craig,
comment.
I got ordered 3 boxes, expensive, 10 little bags in each box, because I take it too. And he said, oh, I've got them here, Joanne. He said, I know. A lot of people are using them now. So if you have a pill, by the way, that medicine that we're taking for our hair,
Yeah.
That's good stuff, but it's not good to take that plastic. Take it and get a little bit.
I don't know, what was that?
I don't know.
Okay, does anybody else have a question?
Can I interfere again, Cesar?
Federico, you're
Yes,
never
yes.
interfering. You're welcome.
Now to Eva. So Eva, do you think the 5-year-old test prepare the horse to the 6-year-old test and the 6 to the 7? Or you have a horse that you just go for the 6 or just go for the 7?
Yeah, sometimes it depends on the way of training that the horse had before. Some horses start training when they are 3, and some horses start 4 when they're 4. So then comes when they start later, the 5-year-old test comes a little bit too early. You know, then you feel the horse is not ready for it. Then you give them 1 more year and you start them with the 6. But most of the times, I think the test for the 5-year-old is not so challenging.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a very I think for most of the horses, it's not a big problem to fulfill the standard.
Mm. Well, I agree as well, Nick. I think the step between the test, the level of the test between 5 and 6 is huge. 4 flying changes, and the
That's
lateral
more
one,
challenging. Yeah, the
but
6-year-old is
much more
definitely.
challenging.
Yeah.
I often say when you want to ride a good test with a 6-year-old horse, you have nearly to have a horse which is nearly ready for PSG, nearly in the direction of PSG. That's for me a big step, a huge step between 5 and 6. And I agree totally what you are saying. The 5-year test with counter canter and 10-meter circles and around the hind legs, around the haunches, and rein back. But this is a long rein in between. I think that's a nice test, but not as challenging as a test for the 6-year-old horses. No? That's a huge step forward.
Okay, I have a question from Nina. Actually, from Nina for both, but she first wants Eva to answer. She says, I suppose she's mainly riding the horses, but what does she think of working from the ground? And is that something she does a lot or very less? Like lunge and double lunge and, piaffe steps from the ground. Those.
I don't work the horses so much on the longe line, I have to admit. Some people do, but I'm not the biggest fan of lunging. It's kind of training when you start a horse, but later on I prefer to train them from the saddle than from the longe line. And when you feel that the horse has the possibility to collect for little half steps, when they're 6 or becoming 6, then we start the little piaffe work from the ground with somebody who's very experienced. I have a expert coming once a week, and we try to teach them a little bit the half steps to introduce them to the piaffe work.
Mm-hmm.
Christoph, what do you think about it?
At the end of the day, and I think that at the end of the day is very important, because one thing, and you will do it when you are judging in Pferden this year, you have to look, or the judges look very carefully to the transitions. And the transitions you can see very good. Is the horse able to carry more weight? Is the horse able to get, at the end of the day, a higher level of collection? And therefore, it's good what Eva is saying a little bit in a very friendly way with an experienced person from the ground, helping a little bit with half steps in forward. This helps the horse to use the hocks and to use the hind legs a little bit more, which is important to have at the end of the day nice transitions after the medium trot into collected trot, something like this. This helps a lot, I think. And this is what judges want to see. Smooth transitions from behind with soft hands of the rider.
Okay. Any more questions? So
Hi.
I will,
Hi,
before you go,
Cesar.
Renee, oh, go ahead, Renee.
Just one question, actually for all three of you. If you could comment on the breeding of the super extravagant horses these days. How do you feel that that's going as far as for, of course, for the young horse classes, but also for the ultimate goal of the Grand Prix horse?
I would not make a big difference in horse breeding for young horses or Grand Prix horses, because the goal is to breed a good Grand Prix horse, and a good Grand Prix horse is most of the times also a good young horse. So it's not something different to breed young horse or Grand Prix horse.
Okay. And Christoph, would you like to comment?
Yeah, I think that's right. And years ago we had a big discussion, and I know that the former German national coach, he passed away many years ago, Holger Schweitzer. He was asked what is the goal of the German breeding, and the question was, what do we want to see? Do we want to see horses with 3 good gaits and good elasticity, or do we want to see horses which have, when they are young, talent for maybe piaffe and passage, which we don't ask for when we have young horses? And I agree what Eva is saying. We want to see horses with good quality, but with a possibility for Grand Prix movements, for piaffe and passage, and for a highest level of collection. But to be honest, when you have a young horse, you expect it, or you hope that it will work, but no breeder knows how it works, that it will work. And I think, Eva, you will agree, it is very difficult when you have a very young horse to say, this will be my Grand Prix horse later on. I think so many different things are coming together to have a Grand Prix horse at the end of the day. I think everybody says, I want to breed a Grand Prix horse, but not very many breeders are able to do it.
And not so many riders, Christoph, also,
yes,
you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I totally agree. And I would like to add that for sure we have to admit that the quality of the breeding has improved so much. I mean, the quality of horses that you see nowadays in the breeding farms, in the auctions, in the classes for young horses, that has improved tremendously. I mean, the suppleness, the elasticity that you see in the horses is nothing compared to what we used to see, I don't know, 40 years ago when I started riding. It was very different. The quality has improved so much, and I think nobody can deny that.
That's true.
I agree, but often the breeders say, okay, the horses are so much better bred, but I would say they are better bred, but they are not always easier to ride. I think what we now have to understand, that many horses are very light in the contact between neck and head, and the throat ledge. Often the throat ledge is very, very short and not open. And therefore, I think it's very important that the young horses get enough time to use the body, the whole body, to use the neck as to balance the whole body, a well-stretched neck. And this is very important when the horses are 3 and 4 years old, that you build up the muscles and to build up the whole horse. And I think this is very, very important, especially now when we have these excellent horses. And I agree totally that the breeding has developed a lot, but we have a new challenge when we ride these wonderful horses today.
Yes, and I would like to add that not everybody can ride these horses too. I mean, this is like sitting on a Ferrari or in one of these amazing speed cars. You also have to have real talent and real feeling for this kind of horses. And this goes to a question from Valerie to Eva. She's asking, what's the best quality of a good young horse rider? So what would you say, best
Very
quality?
good question. Very good question.
The talent of a rider. First of all, it's the body language that you have as a rider. If you have the feeling to become one unit with the horse, you know, you have to have the ability to present the horse, to train the horse in the right way. When you have to have the feeling for movement, you have to have the feeling for situations that you have to help the horse, to guide the horse. You have to have the right timing sometimes, you know. Do I put too much pressure on the horse, too less? Is he listening to me? Do I react at the right time in the right way, you know? And this is, it's like a little bit like you cannot learn that feeling to react in the right moment, in the right way. It's a little bit the feeling that you have to have.
Like a musician.
Yes,
not
yeah,
everybody is
yeah.
a very good musician. And I think, and if as a good example, you have a wonderful balance in the saddle. You have, when I watch your body language, and I had seen you with at least 30 different horses, at least, and you have always a very, very good balance, a very good suppleness, mental suppleness and physical suppleness. That's important. And you sit independent from your hands. Again, and therefore you are able, from this swinging position, you are able to produce your horses. Right? Then you can, in this minute when you are in the arena, you are able to produce horses, not every day, but very, very often you are able to produce the horses on the highest level they are able to do it now. Right? And this is only possible when you have balance and suppleness in your own position. Right?
Good.
Maybe.
Then I think I have the final question, and this is from William, and probably Christoph will be the best one to answer. He says when he began riding in the 70s, his scores as high as 80% were almost unknown. So the question is the quality of movement that has changed so much or so much better now?
Yeah, I would say yes. I would say the quality of the horses had changed. I would say years ago, when people had asked me, what do we do? Do we go in Germany to the Bundeschampionat or to the World Championships? And I said, okay, when you want to see very, very many brilliant horses, then come to the Bundeschampionat, not because I'm German. It's nothing with this, but in the old days, we had top horses from Holland and from Germany and a little bit from Scandinavia. But now we have so many brilliant horses from Sweden, from Denmark, from Holland, from other countries, from Germany. And therefore, I think we have much more horses which are really good. And I think if you will agree, it is much more difficult now to win a medal than in the old days. When you only had to look left and right, okay, I'm a little bit better than these riders. But now we have so many good horse and rider combinations, so well-trained horse and rider combinations and quality horses. That's really a challenge to win a class. And you said it, Jovian and Secret, I was not judging the class, but I saw it. It was really a challenge to say, from the spectator's point of view, who is the winner of this 5-year-old final last year in Ermelo.
That's true.
Okay, so thank you very much. I'm gonna open the microphone, even taking the risk of this being a catastrophe, but it's kind of interesting if people can chat to each other. Christoph and Eva, of course, you're welcome to stay, but again and again, I cannot thank you enough for taking this almost 2 hours with us. It was fantastic. It was really good. Thanks a lot.
Thanks again for the invitation, Cesar. I think I have to leave now.
It's okay. I understand.
Don't think I'm rude, but I have to go.
Okay,
and me too, as well. I say thank you much indeed. In Germany, it's very late, and in America, they just had started. All the best for all of you, and I hope I will meet a lot of you next time. And Cesar, thank you, thank you, thank you. You're a very, very good moderator and a very good organizer. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you for your time.
Bye
You
bye.
both are wonderful.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank
All the
you.
best for
Bye-bye.
you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Stay healthy. Stay healthy.
Bye.
Yes, with this.
So, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, and thank you for joining.
Bye-bye. All the best for all of you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Happy Easter to everybody.
Bye, Natalia.
Thank you very much. Happy Easter. Bye-bye. Keep safe.
Bye.
Thanks a lot.
Bye. Thank you very much. It was really interesting, especially in English. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hola, ¿ya terminó?
Many thanks, Cesar, and stay safe.
Thank you very much. You too.
Bye now.
Thank you.
Hola César, soy Emiliano Schione.
Hola, Emiliano, ¿cómo estás?
Todo bien. Llego un poco tardito, pero bueno,
¿Cómo están tus caballos?
súper bien.
Ok, me alegra que nos hayas acompañado. ¿Estás con tus papás?
Sí.
Mándales saludes.
Hola.
Bye.
Es que pensamos que era las 2.
Ok.
Saludos.
Saludos.
Bueno, chao.
Chao.
Gracias, César, de nuevo. Un abrazo grande, cuídate.
Juan, gracias por acompañarnos.
No, estuvo espectacular. Gracias.
Con gusto, chao. Alejandro, ¿cómo estás?
¿Qué tal, César? ¿Cómo estás tanto tiempo?
Bien, gracias por acompañarnos.
Por favor, gracias a ti por esto. Es muy bueno siempre.
Con gusto. Peggy.
Cuídate.
Hey, I just want to say thank you so much for doing all these.
No,
And I also notice
wow,
behind you on your shelf,
we have the same.
we have the same.
Where did you find that one?
It was a gift. So I don't know where it came from. Where did you get yours?
I don't know. I don't remember. I think I had it. I bought it at some museum many years ago. I don't know where.
Oh, it was a gift for me too. So I don't know where it came from. I just thought it was, I've been watching it, you know, whenever you're on camera going, I think that's exactly the one I have. So anyway, thank you so much for organizing. Looking forward to the next one.
My pleasure.
Okay, take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye all. I'm going as well. I'll see you next time.
Bye-bye, Richard.
Thank you
Bye,
very much. See you.
Bye. Bye.
Okay, we did it.
Yay.
Susan.
Hi. That was fantastic. Lots of little issues, but it was really nice. Oh, good.
Yeah, I think at the end it worked very well.
Hi, Susan. Are you still with us?
Susan?
Susan Thomas? And Philip just got back on. Huh.
Okay. So I think, can we talk about this experience tomorrow?
Sure.
It was really tough to handle the presentation and turning off the microphones and the videos at the same time, and then at the same time answer and commenting. So it's a big task, but
yes, sir.
But I think it worked, and we had more participants than the last time. At one moment we had like 90.
Our top was 92.
Okay, that's great.
It's wonderful. We're growing, and we haven't really even we can get many more.
Yeah, I think we have to find a way.
There are ways. I hope I'm doing okay for you. I stayed very quiet today.
Yes, no, it was good. We have to try to make things easier for everybody, so we'll see.
Okay. Hi, Philip.
Hello, how are you doing?
Hello, how are you?
Very well, thank you. What time is it at your place?
In Colombia, I'm in Colombia, South America. It's 3:03 p.m.
All right, well, I live in New Zealand.
Okay, so what time is it for you?
So it is now, what's that, 8 o'clock? 8 o'clock this morning. Saturday, on Saturday.
Yes.
Yes. We're still on Friday.
All right, yeah, we are a bit ahead of you guys.
Yeah, we're 3 p.m. on Friday.
All right.
And Susan is 4 p.m. in Florida, the US, and the ones in Germany were 10 p.m. Friday.
All right, yes. So, are you already finished with your lecture?
Yes, we're already finished, but we call this like the after party.
After hour party.
And talk to everybody and get to know a little bit from each other.
All right.
Philip, are you on Facebook?
I am on Facebook.
Wonderful. I'll find you. And we have a new page too. We call it Dressage Talks from C.
Yes.
If you would like, we'd love to have you on there. Join us on the page. We will have more information about our upcoming talks and all kinds of fun information going forward.
Perfect.
Okay. I'll look for you on Facebook as well and send you an invite if I see you quickly.
Yeah, I'm Philip Oxenius, O-X-E-N-I-U-S.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I see that. Wonderful.
Thank you very much. So now I'm closing the meeting. Have a good day and have a good afternoon, Susan.
Wonderful, Caesar. And tomorrow, what's a good time for you? Or you want to just talk in the morning and we'll figure out what time? I'm very open.
Yes, we'll talk in the morning and we'll decide.
You had a good rest. This was great. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.